Hello everyone, you're welcome back to a Mass Quest Science and Tech. In today's I'm going to show you how to use clamp meter to measure current. I'm going to show you how to use clamp meter to measure current and voltage. A lot of people that are used to voltmeter and ammeter, but there's a difference between clamp meter and ammeter. Ammeter is used to measure current. Clamp meter can also be used to measure current, but there is one advantage that clamp meter has over ammeter. If you want to measure current with ammeter, you need to break the circuit and you can now connect your probes. Clamp meter has a clamp jaw you can use to measure current without breaking the circuit. Just for you to open it, the jaw here, and allow the cable to be at the center here, and it will measure the magnetic field around the cable and convert it to the current, and the value will display. Like this one is a digital clamp meter. So look at here with me, here is a clamp meter. If you can look at it very well, it has two probes, the black and the red. You can call it the black here is the common, then the red here is the positive. It has other function. Look at here, it has the knob here which you use to switch on. At this point you can see it very well here that this knob here, the pointer here is pointed at off. It shows that the clamp meter is off. So you see other function here like here you used to select based on what you want to measure. Then you see here H here is hold. You use to hold when you measure. For you to get the exact value, you press that hold and the value will remain there so you can measure it very well. If you look at it very well, you notice that you will see other function like the voltage here. You see the frequency. You see other ones like the capacitor, the resistance symbol, the diode symbol, see temperature, see micro ampere here. Then you see ampere and other functions. But as the course of this lesson, I'm going to show you how to use this to measure voltage and current. Now, if you want to measure current with clamp meter, you don't need to break any circuit. You don't need to start to think, how am I going to do it? Just get close to, let's assume that this is your cable. We are going to do that. I have to explain it here so that when we approach where we have a conductor that is carrying current, I can easily measure it. Once you want to measure current, you look at where you have current symbol. I told you in one of my previous lessons that current is measured in ampere. So if you understand that, you will not start thinking, where am I going to set my clamp meter in order for me to measure current? You just turn your knob. If you turn your knob to this A, you will see that here this sign shows that here you can use it to measure. The sign up here shows that you can use it to measure alternating current, and the one here shows that you can as well use it to measure direct current. So what you do depends on the kind of current you want to measure. Then if you are measuring alternating current, you look at here, or as you switch on, the thing is at alternating current. If you look at here, you see AC here. That stands for alternating current. I hope you can see it well. Now, if you want to measure direct current, you have to press here. When you press here, you notice that this thing they will change to direct current. This shows direct current. Now you use it to measure what? The direct current you want to measure. All right. Now, if you are talking of, if you are measuring voltage, you just need to turn it. Look at here, you have here V here, then you bring it to voltage here. When you bring it to voltage here, look at here, the up here is telling you that you can use it to measure the alternating voltage. You can as well use it to measure direct volt as well. So in the same way you set it when you are measuring current, that is the same way you will set it when you are measuring voltage. So if you are measuring AC voltage, of course, look at it here. The thing is at AC already, so you don't need to press here. Just go ahead and measure your voltage. You know that when you are measuring voltage, it's not the same way with when you are measuring current. As you set it, now what you do is that you take your probe here, this one, the black one to the neutral line first, then the red one to the live, if you are measuring AC voltage, and you will take your readings here. And if you look at it very well, notice that this the display here has 4 digits. It shows that this thing does not measure that high voltage. So when you are dealing with high tension, you don't use this to measure. In fact, anything or more than 1000 volts, don't try to measure with this, avoid being electrocuted. So if you want to measure voltage, you set it to here. Then if it is DC volt you want to measure, you press here. Definitely once you press here, it will change. Okay, it changes to hertz. That means you can use here to measure frequency as well. Then you press again, you now see DC. So here it has three functions. You can measure if you are measuring AC volt. It means that when you press, as you measure the voltage, you want to know the frequency. These are the frequency you are using. You can press, once you press here, the first thing you wish that will come up is the frequency that of the device that you are using, and they will measure in hertz. Of course, you know that the unit of frequency is hertz. You see the Hz. So that shows that you are measuring the frequency, but you press it again, it changes to DC voltage. It changes to DC voltage. Then there are other things you can as well use this. Those things you measure with a multimeter, you can as well use this to measure them. For instance, you want to measure resistance of a conductor or anything, you set it to this point. Once you set it to this point, look at what you are seeing here. You see here the symbol here, M and ohms. It shows that you can measure mega resistance, the resistance of a high value. Then if you press here, see that it changes to only H. This shows that you can measure small amount of resistance. Then you press here again, it changes again to this symbol. Look at what you are saying here. That is a symbol of diode. So if you want to use it and test diode, you use it at this point. If you press it again, it will change again. What you see here is microfarad. Microfarad, something that looks like N and capital letter A for micro. Then the F stands for farad. That is the unit of capacitance. So if you are measuring capacitance of a capacitor, so you make use of that. Then if you press it again, you see that you have here what you have here, either kilo ohms or mega ohms. So if you want to measure those components, electronics components, you set it at this point. You can as well use it to measure temperature, and you can as well use it to measure very small amount of current. So we are going to move. Okay, you have another sign here before we move to where we are going to measure see how to measure current and how to measure our voltage. We are going to look at this. You know, there are two ways to measure frequency here. Number one is that you can set to this point. Look at when you set it to this point where you have Hz, you can use it to measure your frequency. Because once you see here, it has changed to frequency. So at this point, you use it to measure frequency.